the problems are in the current financial regulation?
I think the Americans need a fundamental reform of their regulatory institutions. There are too many of them, they overlap with each other, they have too many gaps in financial regulation. In the United States, the United States system is a mess, and it's been one of the major causes of this crisis. In Europe, there are certainly also lessons to learn, particularly about the level of bank capital, which will need to be higher, and also about the way in which we deal with securities markets, etc. But some of the lessons the United States needs to learn are very simple. They need to have regulation of mortgage brokers, for example, which we have in Europe. They need to bring together the regulation of cash securities and equities and derivatives. Nowhere else in the world do they have two separate regulators for equities and derivatives. It makes no sense at all. They must reform that. So the Americans have got a huge agenda of reform ahead of them, and the rest of us have got an important agenda, but not as big as the United States.
国际金融局势持续动荡，全球联手应对危机的努力仍在继续。4月2号到3号，20国集团领导人伦敦金融峰会举世瞩目。我将随经济频道前方报道组奔赴英国伦敦，并且在峰会上采访全球的政要和各国的金融巨头，并且和北京演播室实时连线直播。4月1号到4号，每天早上7点、晚上6点、晚上8点45分，经济频道直播特别节目《直击G20》，敬请收看。
欢迎大家继续关注我们的节目。这次的 G20 峰会呢，还受到了世界上的很多国际机构广泛的关注。我们经济频道还对经合组织的秘书长安琪尔·格利亚进行了专访，一起来看一看。
世界上最大的经济合作机构经合组织的职能主要是研究、分析和预测世界经济的发展走向，经常为成员国制定国内政策和确定在区域性、国际性组织中的立场提供帮助。最近，经合组织制定了一份逃税天堂的名单，批评包括瑞士在内的46个国家和地区。
The Swiss government has recently agreed with the organization to share their banking information. Is this also part of your strategic response to the global financial crisis?
We have embarked now for many years in trying to make all the information that the countries have to be shared for purposes of tax. And with great satisfaction, we are now seeing that Singapore, Hong Kong, and Andorra, and Liechtenstein, and Switzerland, Belgium, Luxembourg, Austria, all are communicating to us that they are now going to adhere by the OECD standard. And that means they will be exchanging information when asked, still keeping the confidentiality.
I understand that the Swiss government has long resisted on the call for more transparent information sharing. Is this crisis putting pressure on this government to agree with you?
To be fair to the Swiss government, they have ways in which they share information. It's just that they were not doing it according to the international agreed standard, which is the OECD. What they have declared now is that they will move to the international agreed standard, which is the OECD standard, and on which most of the countries are operating. So this is good news. Monaco was the latest country that just informed us also that they are joining.
此前，英国首相布朗曾经表示，伦敦峰会的当务之急在于通过一项金融风险早期预警机制，以防同样的危机再次发生。
Do you think it's worth setting up an early warning mechanism to prevent further crises in the future, as suggested by Gordon Brown, the British Prime Minister?
The answer is absolutely yes, because we have a massive failure of the regulatory side, a massive failure of the supervisory side, a massive failure of corporate governance, and a massive failure of risk management. The two first ones, regulatory and supervisory, are in the public domain, in the governments and the institutions. The two last ones are in the private sector. And we should have a better system. We should have been able to detect these things earlier. So an early warning system is the least that we can hope for now. And we have to make sure that this doesn't happen again.
How doable should the setting up this mechanism be?
Oh, it's very doable. I think we We have all the elements to do it, but we should do them, we should use them better. We should increase our coordination. We should increase our cooperation. And we should increase the exchange of information. And we should also improve the indicators that we're looking at that are early warnings precisely of problems to come. And there should be a commitment by all the players, including the largest countries in the world, that if there are warning signals, they should heed them.
经合组织成立于1961年，它的前身是欧洲经济合作组织，目前共有30个成员国，包括了几乎所有发达国家。
What's the specific role of the OECD in the context of the current global economic and financial crisis?
In the short term, trying to make sure that all the decisions that are taken in terms of the regulatory aspect and also the competition aspect, the incentives aspect are well aligned, that there's consistency in the policies, and the consistency of the decisions that you take today, because the governments are going to be owning all the major banks in the world in some of the industrialized countries. So that's going to be a difficult situation. They have to get out of that.
The OECD has its own strategic response to the current global financial crisis. What impact will this response have?
Everything that increases productivity, everything that increases competitiveness in order to help get countries out of the crisis stronger.
The G20 summit has already raised the three main areas of discussion, which are greater financial regulation, avoiding protectionism, and possibly further fiscal stimulation. How far are these measures consistent with your own strategic response?
We are encouraging that these stimulus packages be large. These packages are to push the economy. And then when you get it going, then of course the idea is that you are going to have increased economic activity in each of those countries, but also this is going to spill over into the rest of the world economy, especially with the large economies like China or the United States.
国际金融局。
好，接下来的时间，我们再一同来看一组其他的国际经济资讯。
昨天，美国道琼斯公司发表声明称，花旗和通用汽车已经被剔出道琼斯全球股市指数。道琼斯公司在声明中指出，花旗和通用汽车因为自身业绩出现亏损，从而导致股价在去年跌幅超过了88%，因此已把这两只股份剔出道琼斯全球150只股票的指数外。道琼斯全球指数在去年11月推出，是预示未来全球主要企业的指数。由于房地产和制造业指数好于市场预期，抵消了私营部门就业人数减少以及通用汽车或将破产带来的不利影响。4月1号，纽约股市3大股指均大幅上涨，道琼斯指数上涨超过150点。截至收盘，道琼斯指数收于7761.60点，涨幅为2.01%。标普500指数和纳斯达克综合指数涨幅均超过1.5%。美国加利福尼亚州从当地时间4月1号起实施新的消费税率，税率从7.25%提高到8.25%。此前，加州内各县市行政区域征收的消费税率各不相同。洛杉矶县因交通压力过大，一直收取8.25%的消费税。新税率实施后，洛杉矶县的消费税增长到9.25%，而加州州府圣克莱门托加税后，消费税更达到了10.25%。据预计，增加的1%消费税会为加州本财政年度带来大约12亿美元的收入。据日本读卖新闻报道，日本汽车销售协会联合会1号发布了2008财年，也就是08年4月到09年3月之间的日本国内新车销售数据报告。报告显示，08财年汽车销售总数同比下降11.6%，为470.8万辆，连续3年下滑。这一数值创28年来新低，是上世纪80年代以来日本新车销售首次跌到500万辆以下。